I'm the person who has seen this show before.
I'm a person who's never watched an anime.
HiroBabble, we are HiroBabble. HiroBabble, we are HiroBabble. Hey, hello and welcome back to the HiroBabble podcast. You may have noticed we took a little bit of a week hiatus, but in actuality, because we did a double episode, you technically didn't miss anything last week.
But Fernie, tell them how we're going to make it right for them.
We're going to do another double episode
We're
today.
going to do another double episode.
And should the schedules be willing, another episode next week.
Hear them out.
Now just hear me out. Another episode next week.
What do you think?
Thoughts? Go ahead and leave us a comment down below. Also, wanted to shout out new YouTube subscriber Daniel Ambrose Mink?
Munich?
Yeah, Munich. Loved all of your comments on our past couple episodes. Really appreciate the support. And glad you stumbled across it after watching the Rebuild movies, which, spoiler alert, well, not really. We're going to watch the Rebuild movies along with End of Evangelion. So, pretty soon you might be able to bounce some of your thoughts off of ours.
Thank you once again, man. We are definitely going to be, hitting up your comments, trying to respond to everybody just like we would for anyone.
Yeah.
But we just want to give you a special shout out, man.
Yeah, because in all honesty, it was one thing to see like a bunch of comment notifications, but for each one to be like, hey, really loved this bit, or, something like that. Much appreciated. So,
yes.
Keep on keeping on, brother.
Well, Fernie, we've got a double episode spectacular once again.
Yeah, and this I think, in the same way that 13, 14 were fitting, I think 15, 16 really lend themselves to that back-to-back coverage, both in watching them, but also just in podcast form.
Yeah.
So the episodes we're covering today, and I'm going to go with the Japanese titles, because the title for episode 15 is very long-winded, but I dig it.
Yeah, I had to massage a cramp from my hand when I was writing that one down.
Yeah, you and me both. But not from writing it. Oh! So episode 15 is titled, Those Women Longed for the Touch of Others' Lips, and thus invited their kisses. And then episode 16 is Splitting of the Breast. Interesting. Back-to-back titles, huh?
Yep.
Makes you think of anything?
Breast makes me think of some things.
Nice. It do be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what am I supposed to think? They're pushing freaking Misato down my throat in these episodes.
I will say, in the same way that in episode 13, you kind of see, and not just 13, but as the show has progressed, Misato, especially in 15, 16, has a very strong arc, but also a huge shift in character.
Yeah.
Especially in episode 15, when she kind of goes on this monologue. And then in episode 16, where it's kind of like, real bad bitch hours, I'm pissed,
Yeah, it was kind of... It was like a shift. It was like a shift in time here, because Misato and Ritsuko, for that matter, really all the women in this show have been very strong characters.
Yeah.
And Misato has a moment in 15 that we'll talk about, where she sort of is vulnerable there for a second, and she makes herself very, sort of weak.
Yeah.
And it was
allows herself to be vulnerable.
Right. It was really odd coming from her, because she has been very carefree and strong the whole show.
And also during moments of duress for other characters, she's very much kind of taken on this pillar role where she's unwavering. Even in the face of you have a 0.01.2% chance of this working, she goes, yeah, we're going to do it and it's going to work out.
Right, she's been fearless to the point that it's kind of odd. Mm-hmm. So for her to have kind of a breakdown over... an ex.
Yeah.
Was kind of weird, but yeah, 15 is kind of an interesting episode. Instead of giving us some slow build up and then an angel fight, they give us kind of a few kind of side, almost like day off stories.
Yeah.
And then they kind of meld them together to give you a satisfying finish.
Yeah, well, and the episode does a job of kind of putting you, the viewer, at the starting point of a few various of these various side adventures. So right in the beginning, it cuts to Gendo and his right-hand man. I'm not even going to try and guess the name. But basically, this guy is telling Gendo, hey, they're asking about our timeline. They're really wondering kind of where we're at with everything,
Yeah, they bring up
the seats of Cell, or the Cell group, or whatever.
Yes, they bring up... This is such a crazy scene because if you remember, the last episode was like half clips and then was half like really deliberate story. Like, here's what we're going to be talking about over the next 15 episodes.
Yeah.
And this intro brings up like, hey, they asked us about the, this and this and this and this that you needed to remember.
Yeah, they're like, they asked us about Adam, and then Gendo says something like, Adam is fine.
Yeah, we're on schedule.
And he's like, and the dummy plug is working great.
Yeah.
And then he goes, oh yeah, well, they're saying that we're late when it comes to the Human Instrumentality Project, and Gendo goes, I don't care, let them worry, like everything's under control here. And then his right-hand man goes, even Ray? And then Gendo kind of gets quiet.
Yeah.
And he goes, it'll be fine, or something like that, where he's kind of like, don't worry about it.
Right, like it was a little bit more personal to him that one succeeded. It was, he asked him one other thing too. Before that, he was just like, and what about that guy, or like, what about him, or whatever. And he was like, yeah, that's fine too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are we supposed to know what that is, or are they teasing something, or like, what was up with that one kid that had the cat like 6 episodes ago on that tram with Kaji?
Who knows, dude?
That's what I was kind of thinking. Maybe this guy was.
Yeah.
But then I started second guessing myself, like, man, I should probably just know who that is. But
yeah, well, so pretty much it opens up with Gendo and his right-hand man basically kind of, like you're saying, going through the greatest hits of the secrets of the show that have now, they've been, like, the curtain's been pulled back a little bit, and we as the viewer have gotten to see, the Spear of Longinus, Ray, like, walking it down in the weird blood water. Like, we've seen all these things. Kaji makes mention of, like, there's something deeper going on at Nerve. Which, speaking of, it's great that it opens with Gendo and his right-hand man, because then it cuts to Kaji, who is kind of sneaking around this empty warehouse.
Yeah.
And you can tell Kaji's up to, he's up to his little snooping skills.
Right. Well, he was snooping around last episode, but then it got,
the power went out.
The Magi screwed him over, and he had
to get stuck in an elevator with Misato. Just, ugh.
So now he's back to his schedule.
Well, and the door starts to open, and he pulls a gun, and I'm just kind of, to me, that's really the first time that Kaji is just openly like, I'll kill someone if it means like, they're gonna rat me out.
Well, it's almost like this is sort of the first time that we see him truly like undercover doing something. Because before, it's almost like before we'd seen him doing like his fake job. Mm-hmm. And now we're seeing him do like his real purpose.
Yeah. Well, so pretty much the door opens, and it's another undercover agent. She's just this old lady who's feeding cats.
Yeah.
And their back and forth essentially boils down to, this warehouse is apparently listed as one of 107 other facilities that are touted as various things. Resource management, the like debris cleanup, and then what was really interesting is this particular one was supposed to be where the Ava Pilot Committee was apparently supposed to be meeting to pick the next candidates, which of course isn't a thing at all, but by extension I think that's a huge nugget of info, because
I was gonna say, while that might not be a thing that we see right now, I think the point of that was to give us, hey, this is what that Human Instrumentality Council or whatever, this is what they do.
Yep.
And so, because we'd heard that name thrown around a couple of times, and so to hear it here again and then have Kaji sort of explain it in a natural way, it definitely filled in a much needed gap for me. having seen this for the first time, all these new corporations and abbreviations can be a little bit overwhelming to try to figure out what the hell they all are.
Yeah. Well,
so this was a nice cleanup for me. And
it's nice too, though, just because this I think kind of further expands the scope with which Nerve operates. They may have the regular populace fooled.
Yeah.
But there are people now slowly unraveling this long and elaborate string of lies, basically meant to keep things as under wraps as possible.
Right.
And so following that cut, with Kaji and this other agent talking about the scope of things, it cuts to the 3 Eva pilots, Ritsuko, Misato, and
Asuka.
I was just saying like the 3 Eva pilots, and then the 2 of them are. The 3 pilots are in the plugs, and they're doing their synchronization training, the usual stuff. Just a classic scenario of.
I know, it's funny because as the viewer, I was sort of like, oh my gosh, they're doing this again, and then Asuka literally has a line where she's like, man. Are we just going to keep doing this forever? Like, when are we going to go fight shit?
Yeah, which, frankly, at this point, the audience is probably wondering something similar, because it's like...
She's speaking for the people.
Yeah, when are we going to go blow shit up? But during that scene where they're, undergoing that plug training, Ritsuko, Misato, and some of the other crew are talking about a wedding coming up, and... Ritsuko asks Misato, hey, like, what dress are you going to wear, And then Misato goes, well, I wore my blue one to the shower. I wore my red one to this. And Ritsuko goes, what about the orange one? Too tight. And Misato goes, shut up.
Yeah.
I think I'll wear my red one again. And just, like, kind of changes the subject. But
right.
I made a note of it because it's just so crazy to think of something as ceremonious as a wedding happening in like these times, or with angels looming and Evas and all that, but again keeps things grounded.
I also just really like hearing some of the subtle details of the past between Ritsuko and Misato.
Yeah.
Where she's like, oh, I remember you wearing that in college, probably doesn't fit anymore, and she's like, oh
yeah, you're gonna say that to me? Anyways. Yeah, I'll just wear the red one again.
Yeah, I like those moments. Like we kind of mentioned in the... I forget if it was the last episode where that was kind of the Magi episode, but, they sort of have hinted at this past really endearing friendship for a long time that has sort of become so professional that I think it's hurt it a little bit. And so whenever they have these nice moments of, grounded just buddies, it makes my heart warm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think... I know I'm probably a broken record at this point for talking about, it keeps things grounded. There's a level of reality here, like
in a show about
in a show about this. But I think it's really important, like you're saying, that things such as those conversations, or we're going to a wedding, and like after the wedding, it's farther in the episode, but they end up at a bar and they're just reminiscing on like college and all that.
Right.
That's such a real thing that just happens.
Yeah, the show, it has never been afraid to show us the quiet moments or show us the in-between inner beat moments.
Yeah.
I still play a lot of music, but, I used to do a lot of stuff where you talk about not just the notes on the page, but kind of the inner rest in between those notes is also just as important.
Yeah.
And it's like this show finds a way to not only give us the main beats of the fights and the, important dialogue, but it also gives us like, breakfast at the house and, little things that you wouldn't normally get that give us a lot of those character moments that make the show special.
Totally. Well, and so pretty much after that initial conversation happens with Misato, Ritsuko about the wedding, and, Asuka's like, when are we going to kill something? It cuts to Shinji and Rei in an elevator. And in the opening of this episode, I didn't touch on it, but they're doing cleanup at the school, pretty much. They're wiping down the walls and the floors and all of this, and Rei wrings out a towel over a bucket, and Shinji just hones in on that. Like, he for whatever reason, and the framing of it is it just shows her holding the towel being wrung out. It doesn't show her fully. Well, it starts off as that kind of shot, then it frames just that, and that's where Shinji spaces out.
It like changes the coloring too, and they've done that a couple times to show us like past events and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and so pretty much that scene leads to this elevator one where Rei and Shinji are there, and Shinji goes, "Hey, when you wrung out that towel, it was like a mother. You were like a mother." And Rei's like, Rei starts blushing. And, or, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Only slightly.
The first thing Shinji says is, I'm meeting with my dad today.
Yeah.
What should I say to him?
He's like, yeah.
And Rei's like, why are you asking me that? And he goes, well, you always look so happy with him. And then to like segue, cuts to when you wrung out that towel, you looked like a mom. You'd make a really good mom. And Rei starts blushing, but I made a specific note. When he says when you were wringing out the towel, you looked like a mom, there are 2 quick cuts. And it shows these red images. And it shows like Rei with kind of like not mutilated, but like a very different looking image of Rei's face.
Yeah.
And then a cut to red of the towel.
Yeah.
Except the towel extends past the frame, and so it's like a really quick like red ominous Rei wringing something out, and then it cuts back to Rei, and he's like, yeah, so you're a great mom, mommy.
Yeah, the dialogue's a little different in the Netflix version, but it's the same. I mean, he's pretty much just like, yeah, when you were wringing that towel earlier at school, it just reminded me of like a mother.
Yeah.
You know? And she's like, is that why you were staring at me? You know?
Yeah, well, and then she starts blushing.
Yes.
And then the scene comes to an end, and it cuts back to the apartment with Misato, Asuka, Shinji, and Shinji's already home. Misato comes home and goes, hey, everyone, like, what's up? And Asuka's like, oh, nothing, like, you know, just hanging out, being bored. And prior to that, she had been trying to call Kaji to see if he was... Oh, damn it. No. I'm jumping around. But at the school, when they're cleaning, she's on the phone and is like trying to call Kaji.
She calls Kaji and is like... She's screaming like bloody murder.
She's like, help!
Like,
perverts!
Yeah.
Oh, no! And then hangs up and goes, yeah, that's gonna get him.
Yeah. He'll call me back any second, ladies.
But then she gets roped into a date because one of her classmates goes, wait, does that mean you're free Saturday?
Yeah, the teacher's pet.
Yeah. So anyways, when Misato comes home, Asuka goes, yeah, I have a date Saturday. Jealous. And Misato's like, oh, that's nice. Is Shinji home? And she goes, yeah, but he's in his room. Probably because he, like, doesn't want to see his dad tomorrow or some...
Yeah.
She is ruthless. She's like, probably because he's scared of his dad or some shit.
Some really insensitive, uneducated thing to say.
Well, and so she says, like, I don't get it. If he hates him so much, why does he not just, like, not go? And Misato says a really great line. She goes, well, he doesn't actually hate him. That's the problem.
Yeah, same thing in my version. And
truthfully, I think that's a really great line because it is foreshadowing, especially for Misato, later in this episode. And I think it is telling, too, of the shift we've seen her make over these past couple episodes because it's you know, contrast that line to, like, episode 2 where it's like, I don't give a shit if you're sad, Shinji. Like, you have a job to do. You know, who fucking cares if your dad hates you? Get in the robot. And now she's like, yeah... It's a little bit more complicated than that, Asuka, so...
Yeah.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah, dude. She's found a lot of common ground with him. And I think she really has found a place where she understands him.
Yeah.
And will stick up for him in front of people now.
Especially after episode 13.
Yeah.
That was, I think, a real, like... Or the turning point where that ground was covered.
Yeah, like, he is now more than just, like, the test subject of the month for her, you know? she really has an emotional attachment to him. And if I could just say one thing to my theory fans out there.
Mm-hmm. All of them.
The scene in the... Yeah, all of you. The scene in the elevator between Shinji and Rei absolutely just, sheds light on my correctness of Rei being a clone of Shinji's mom.
Uh-huh.
The fact that she would only blush is because she knows that he's right, that she is his mother, just in a different version.
Okay.
So, to my theory fans out there, we did it.
Hey, we haven't confirmed anything yet.
We did it, boys.
Also, I would like to just correct that one of the red flash frames, she is still wringing out the towel, but the positioning makes it looks like it's something else, but it's over the bucket.
What did you think it was?
I thought it was like like from a top-down perspective, but I forgot that it's more from a, like, someone looking up at her as she's wringing it over the bucket.
Sure.
But yeah, so I don't know. All you theory fans, let us know down in the comment section below. Kind of what you're thinking. But pretty much, from that initial interchange between Misato and Asuka, where Misato goes, that's the problem. He doesn't. Misato then goes in to talk to Shinji, and is basically kind of just giving him a forced pep talk about like, you can't go into this tomorrow like with your head down, like you've got to go in there with your chin up, and like have some confidence, and then carry that confidence one step after the other, like, and just keep moving forward. And it really feels like she is not so much saying that for him, but is almost saying that from a framing of like for herself, or almost from a position of, I wish someone had said this to me.
Sure.
Because there's that common ground there, because she just talks at him.
Yeah. It's
not like a conversation. She just kind of says it and leaves, but I feel like the insinuation there is, oh yeah. Yeah, Shinji, go in there with your head held high. Be confident.
It doesn't really help him in the short run. Mm-mm. It might help him long run, but short run, it really just made him like realize that he's really going to be out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
Tomorrow at the meeting, and then Misato and Asuka end up just having some like bicker fest outside, and he's like just desperately needs to think.
Totally.
Doesn't have the space to living with those two girls.
Yeah, well, it's great too though. The next morning, one of my favorite just rotating shots, it cuts to Misato saying goodbye, Asuka saying goodbye, Shinji saying goodbye, and then Pen saying goodbye, and then the door closes, and then they all go their separate ways.
Yeah.
And also, just shout out to this show for not making us sit through a fake wedding, and instead, like, making it so, it kind of just cuts through the boring stuff and gets right to Ritsuko, Misato, and Kaji just hanging out chatting.
Yeah. Well, I know. They showed us a couple quick clips. But, I mean, we didn't really know who's getting married, right?
Yeah. Well, and we also didn't need to. But I think that's just another layer of the greatness is that, a wedding's happening in what is arguably just a really fucked up timeline.
Yeah.
And even if we don't know how it's happening, it still is significant that something like that is taking place. I will say, though, very, very quick shot, but it basically cuts to after those little mini wedding shots, and they're like cutting the cake and all that. Ritsuko and Misato are sitting down talking, and then it's like, oh, look what the cat dragged in, and they both look and see Kaji. Kaji walks by one of the butlers, and his hand shifts a little bit out of his pocket, and then goes back, and both of them look and see that, and they're like, they don't facial expression show anything, but it's shot in a way where you're like, yeah, they saw that. That wasn't slick.
Right.
But then he sits down and Misato adjusts his tie and he's like, oh, hey.
I know. She's like, God damn it. Not only do you show up late, but your tie looks like dog shit.
And you didn't shave your damn stubble.
Yeah, and you didn't shave your 6 hairs.
Yeah, the same 6. And he's like, it's my thing.
You know me, baby. Haven't changed.
Since college.
Yep.
But then it cuts to this row of grave markers is pretty much what it is.
They're all just tombstones.
And we finally, like what, the second or third time, get to see Gendo and Shinji have a conversation, which is, this is rare screen time, folks.
It is.
This is like, long awaited, and truthfully, when they allude to the fact that, oh, tomorrow is Shinji's, it's the day, and it's like the day his mom died, and you're just kind of like, fuck, what are they even going to talk about? What's the,
Yeah.
what is there to say?
Yeah, this was interesting. I mean, it actually serves to teach you a lot of little details that you might not have known about Shinji's mom, about, maybe her involvement with, with Gendo during the second impact and all that kind of stuff. While at the same time giving you a little bit of what Shinji and Gendo's relationship is, because really, other than a couple like good jobs or one good job and like
I was gonna say whoa, one time,
it's really since the phone conversation in the first episode that we haven't really seen them talk.
Yeah, well, and so I think that's kind of leading up to this moment very significant, even if the show doesn't. I mean, the show kind of is like, whoa, Shinji's really nervous to talk to his dad, like,
yeah,
what's Gendo gonna say? They're talking about Shinji's mom, who he has a strong affinity for, but at the gravestone, he's like, it's funny, I know my mom, like, I remember her, but I can't remember what she looks like,
Right.
I just have these memories, and sometimes I just wonder if I'd be better off forgetting. And then Gendo says this really profound line. He's like, burying memories is a man's way of moving forward, but there are some things you mustn't ever forget.
Sure.
And he's like, and for me, that's your mother. And Shinji goes, and there's no photos? And he goes, nope, but they're in my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, Gendo, acting like a normal person for 2.3 seconds.
Yeah, I actually think that he was a little bit more cryptic in the Netflix version.
Oh, really?
Not by much, but I think that, like, it does a few things here. I crunched some numbers. So the mom passes away in 2014.
Yep.
And so this show... Wait. No, 2004.
Yes.
The mom passed away in 2004.
So Shinji was 4.
Yeah, he was like 3 or 4. Right?
4.
How old is Shinji?
He's 14.
He's 14. So yeah, he would have been like 4
Ava
years
pilots
old.
can only be 14.
Right, and it's 2015 in this show, right?
I thought it was 2014.
I think it's 2015.
Oh, either way. Well, then in that case, I don't know if my age number is
well.
correct.
Either way, he's very young when his mom passes away. So I can totally see how maybe at this point in his life he wouldn't have a clear, vivid memory of his mother's face.
Yeah.
He wouldn't quite have all the details right of what happened. But he does have maybe some flash things in his head that remind him of his mom.
Totally.
I like that all checked out with me.
Yeah.
And this scene, while it was kind of cryptic and sort of awkward, it served to be really informative.
Yeah.
As well, because we really hadn't gotten that information. What her name was, when she died. When she died sort of gives you a little bit of maybe how she died too. So, yeah. It's a good scene.
No, I agree. Well, and it's nice too at the end, Gendo goes, all right, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And Shinji very sheepishly just kind of goes, hey, I'm really glad we got to do this together today. And Akari goes, indeed, I'm glad we did. And then is gone. And I'm like, okay, shit. Yeah. Still a piece of shit guy, but hey, at least there's a little...
Well, Shinji did do a good job in the last mission.
He did. He's earned some good boy points.
Yeah, I agree.
Then, so after that scene, it cuts back to Ritsuko, Misato, and Kaji hanging out at the bar. Misato's just getting absolutely shit-faced. Ritsuko is just kind of like, you have got to cool it. We're not, in college anymore.
I know.
And she's just like, I'll be fine. And then Kaji is there. And he's just kind of, saying like, things haven't changed, huh? Look at us. And Ritsuko kind of goes on this like little tangent. And she says a line, because they're basically all like reminiscing and talking about themselves. And Ritsuko goes, I don't like to talk about myself. There isn't much to say. And Masato goes, what? No, there is. And Kaji makes a comment, and that's when Masato goes, God, you just don't change. And he goes, what can I say? That's just kind of my, that it is who I am.
Right.
And Ritsuko makes mention of, like, hypochondria, like the hypochondria or something along those lines. I'm sure I'm butchering it, but basically boils it down to the notion of there are two opposing forces, the force to change and the force to stay the same, and those are always at conflict with one another. And then she goes, well, I should be going, and Misato's like, what? Are you gonna what? And she's like, okay, bye. And then it cuts to Kaji carrying Misato home on his back.
Right.
Just drunk as hell. Just can't walk.
Yeah, I mean, the scene, there's like a little bit where Misato goes to the restroom and...
Oh, yeah.
Kaji mentions that she's wearing high heel. He sort of hints that, there's still a lot of attraction there from him, even though maybe he wouldn't admit it out loud in those words.
Yeah.
And, him and Ritsuko kind of have that somewhat deep conversation about... I think she's getting at, like, humans instinctively fear, like, two things. And one of them is change. Yeah. And then the other one is never moving forward, never moving on. And those will always conflict, like, no matter what. Yeah. And that's just, like, human nature. And I think, she's using that as, like, on the surface level as, like, that Kaji is just the tool that he is, and he won't change that. Yeah. But it's also kind of meta for the show that, there's a lot of things happening in the world, and,
Kaji giving off this persona that he'll never change, when in reality, beneath the surface, he doesn't want to stay the same, or he doesn't want things to stay the same, which is why he's infiltrating Nerve.
Well, yeah. I mean, he clearly puts on this facade as, like, this cool dude.
I'm aloof, yes. I'm just kind of like, right. I'm Kaji. Yeah. Well, and Ritsuko even calls him out on it. I totally spaced on it, but he hands her this bag of, like, it looks like money, or something along those lines, because one of them has, like, a heart on it, or... Yeah. It just looks like coins. But she goes, so what were you doing in Kyoto today?
Yeah, they were. I don't know if they were, like, commemorative coins, or if it's the same as, like we'd get, like, a quarter that might have, like, a state on the back or something. Oh, yeah. Or, like, it was minted somewhere. But, yeah, it's like this bag of coins from a certain place that she immediately knows. Yeah. I was like, what were you doing there?
And he goes, I wasn't. And she goes, you better be careful.
I know. He's like, oh, no, I got him here. She's like, yeah, bullshit.
Yeah, don't lie to me. Yeah. Dumb fuck. Well, and as this deep conversation is going on, in parallel, back at Misato's apartment, things are getting a little steamy.
Yeah, we get back-to-back kisses between main characters here. Yeah. Let's talk about Asuka and Shinji first.
Because it is weird.
It is weird. It's like, it's the classic, like, two buddies who, like, maybe like each other under the surface. That just, but on the surface level, they just fight all the time. Yeah. And they fight because, like, they don't know how to express their true feelings. And so Asuka just comes up with this dumb plan that...
She's like, you want to kiss me?
Yeah, let's kiss. Like, have you ever kissed a girl? Do you want to practice? And Shinji's like, no.
He's like, what?
Like, he's nervous.
Yeah, he's like, and she goes, come on, just kiss me.
Right. She sort of is hinting at, like, this is purely for practice. This is not romantic whatsoever. Yeah. I would never ask you romantically. But just, like, so that we have practice so we're both good when we need to be. Yeah. Like, let's just kiss.
Well, and so then he goes in, and there's, like, a moment where they stop, and she goes, your breath is tickling me.
Yeah, they're, like, really, really close. Yeah, in the Netflix version, she's like, quit breathing through your nose. And he's like, what?
Yeah, and then she just pinches it. Yeah. And then kisses him, and then pretty much you just watch his skin go from, like, pink to purple to green.
Penn walks out of the room and kind of, like, glances up and is like, oh, shit.
He's like, nice.
Well,
I'm going to bed.
Yeah, I'm going to bed, guys. Goes
Yeah.
and lays down, shuts the door.
You kids don't stay up too late.
Yeah.
And then pretty much from there, Shinji then breaks away and he goes,
Right.
"Oh my god!" And Asuka goes, "Ew!" And then runs into the bathroom and starts using mouthwash. And she goes, "Oh, that was the grossest thing ever! I'm never kissing a little boy again."
In the Netflix version, she insinuates that Shinji started it.
She's like, "Why would you?" In mine, she does too. She's like, "Why would you kiss me?"
Yeah. I'm like, God damn it.
And Shinji's like, I don't. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's tough to see. They didn't really give us a full facial reaction from them to see whether one of them was like really into it or not. So I hope that maybe they touch on that down the road. I still am rooting for Shinji and Rei. That way he can end up dating his own mom. Just for the fuckery.
Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
I would like that. I want that really bad.
Well, so after the world's most awkward kiss, cuts back to the bar. Misato comes back from the powder room,
with her high heels on.
Yeah, with her high heels on, and Kaji is very honed in on that.
He is. He's like, damn, she has changed.
He's like, she is wearing high heels. Nice. And pretty much Ritsuko goes, yeah, like we're not in college anymore. And he goes, yeah, we aren't. And then this pretty much leads to, Ritsuko bailing, and then Misato and Kaji are walking home. Granted, Misato isn't walking to begin with. She's getting carried on Kaji's back. And pretty much from that point, there's a moment where she goes, all right, let me down. Like, let me walk. And then they start walking, and Misato just kind of starts letting it all out. She's like, I wish I would have written down more, like, quotes. But pretty much she's just kind of admitting that, I can't believe I hated my dad, and then I ended up dating someone like you who is exactly like my dad.
Yes.
She's like, I feel like I just joined NERV because I wanted to beat the Angels, and now I don't really know what we're doing anymore. Like, I look at Shinji and Gendo, and I see myself and my dad, where, like, I can't hate him, but I should hate him, and I hate myself, and it just...
Right. She starts down this rabbit hole of self-hate.
Yeah.
Where, like, the point that she's trying to get at is, like, look at, like, me and you. Like, here, like, I left you for this, and this reason, and, like, but I didn't really mean those. I just did it because, like, I'm weak.
Yeah.
And, like, here I am again. I'm back to you. Like, I just am mentally weak and emotionally weak and blah, blah, blah. And he, throughout it, is kind of like, no.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
Yeah.
You don't need to do this.
Kaji's like, no, you're not. Like, you're not weak.
Yeah.
Cut it out. You're wrong. That's not true. And then she just kind of keeps getting more and more, like, just kind of throwing it all out there. And then he kisses her.
To, like, get her to shut up.
But also, I think it was out of, like, you're none of those things you say you are.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think he views her as someone that is, not deserving of that self-loathing that she's inflicting on herself. But
I think that scene does serve to show you weakness in her as well. Because not that makes you weak. Not that those emotions make you weak, but compared to what we've seen of her through the whole show, that in comparison is a moment of weakness for her. Because she's been, for the whole time with Kaji, she's been very like, no, we're not going to be back together.
Yep.
No, I think you're gross. There's all reason A through Z of why they wouldn't work together.
Yeah.
And why she's better for it that they broke up. And now here she's, in his arms on the middle of the road, drunk. And
But I think that Kaji was very much, I don't know if I would say he was kissing her to, like, shut her up, but I think that he has genuine feelings for her, but I think that the duality of him being a double agent maybe gets in the way of that. But
we've all been there.
We've all been there. But I do think that him saying those things of, like, no, you're not. Don't say that about yourself. You're wrong. are very true.
I agree. There was a lot of genuine feelings from Kaji, which was a little bit out of character for him in that moment.
Well, because even then, when he takes Misato back to the apartment, he walks her in, like, helps her make sure she's okay, and then, next thing you know, she's laying in bed just, like, face down, passed out, and as he's leaving, like, you can tell he like, keeps up his, like, facade in front of Asuka and Shinji, and then...
Asuka's trying to get him to stay the night.
Yeah, Asuka's like, hey, big guy, why don't you crash here? But as she goes in for that follow-up, Kaji's like, no, I can't do this tonight, like, I have to go.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey, take care of her, okay?
Yeah.
Make sure she's all right. And as he walks away, he kind of like, rubs his head in like a, oh, fuck,
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of what she said, Misato, impacted him in kind of a way where he was just like, this is all fucked.
Yeah.
There's some layers to this shit, and it is fucked up.
Kind of like he didn't intend or expect the emotional baggage that would come with this assignment that he got.
Yeah. Well, and so then it cuts from that to Rei in a test tube, hooked up to a giant machine, and Gendo just standing there. And then Rei opens her eyes, and they're just kind of like smiling. And it, I mean, I know what's up, but I mean, like, what?
I don't even remember that.
You don't remember any of that? Where, like, Rei's just in a test tube, and Gendo's like, yes. But then...
I must have written something down.
Yeah.
And then looked back up, and it was on the scene with Misato and Kaji.
It's a quick scene, because it just goes through, shows Rei, cuts to Gendo, cuts to Rei again, they're smiling. And
Holy fuck!
Yeah, and then Kaji's like, gonna just slide right in, and Misato pulls a gun on him, and is like, well, little bitch. I knew you were lying this whole damn time. And he goes, were you? And she goes, yes, I did. I launched an investigation on you, because I was really suspicious. And he goes, you want to know what else is suspicious? What's behind the door? And he, like, slides the card.
Right. That you're not hungover.
Yeah. Well, he slides the card, it opens. And what else is behind it other than...
Shinji's mom.
No. Adam. No Eve. Just Adam.
This moment for me was where the floodgates absolutely opened on this show.
Yeah.
Because they have been fucking teasing for the entire time we've been doing this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And this scene happens, and it's like, oh, hell yeah. They actually have a lot of shit to cover here by the end of this show.
Well, and at the end of that episode, Misato goes, what is the starter of the second impact doing here? That's the first angel.
Yes, we learned that.
And Misato just, like, immediately is kind of going, what are we doing? Like, what is going on at Nerve? And so, now Kaji essentially has an ally in Misato, because he's basically like, Ritsuko and Gendo they're up to no good. And...
Yeah, I mean, he has an ally against his... I think what would have been his choice. I mean, maybe it was his plan to get Misato on his side slowly, but
maybe. But
let's talk just a little bit about that scene. So
yeah,
in the Netflix version, when it opens the doors, she says, like, basically, "Oh my God, it's an Ava."
She says that.
She says that, and I remember thinking to myself, that makes no sense to me at the moment.
That's an interesting script change.
But, yeah, so I have no idea what that means.
Damn.
I also am thinking about, like, Adam. So, like, the last time I saw Adam, quote-unquote, I guess, he looked like a fucking embryo. So, I'm curious if they've been growing that underneath Nerve this whole time. And that's what they're asking Gendo for his progress on. Did you
notice what was stuck right into the middle of Adam? A spear?
Well, yeah. could that potentially be the longitudinal Didlo that we've all been looking for?
And do you notice that it has a weird spiral to it?
Just like in Dark Souls 3?
No, just like when Rey was wringing out the towel.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Really?
I mean, think about it.
I think I was so... God, I think I was so busy writing shit.
Why else would Rey, in the elevator, have a moment where she cuts back to the thought of wringing out a towel, thinking of Gendo, when just 2 episodes ago she was walking the spear down to the lower level?
Oh, man. Fuck. This show's coming together, Fernie.
Yeah.
Good lord.
And then, sure enough, the thing that is just thrust right in the middle of Adam... as he's nailed to a cross.
He's nailed to a cross. There's a lot of fun symbolism there.
Like, other than the spear?
Mm.
That is very interesting that they changed the script to say, it's an Ava. What? Are you sure they said Ava?
100%. I watched it twice.
Okay.
And I missed the coiled sword every time.
Well, I mean, that I won't comment further, but... that's a very interesting script change, because I guess you could go either way.
It just, well, for me, it didn't make sense, because I have a mental separation, at least at this point. And I don't know if what'll happen later, but at the moment, for me, there is a distinct difference between angels and Avas. Because, and that's what the show wants you to think, obviously, because they are the combatants, right? Mm-hmm. It's the pilots in the Ava against the angel. And I guess I know that there is some... I know that the angels aren't all bad. I've known that for pretty much the entirety of the show.
Yeah.
That something's flip-flopped here. But to see... when she called Adam that, I was really confused what the fuck I was looking at.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that makes me curious about the Ava units that they have, that they're using. And how the hell they got those. And, you know, if the reason that they're so busy trying to capture these, like when they were in the Magma episode and they were trying to capture that that small one, if they were attempting to create another Ava unit, or it's just this, you know, Nerve is fucking diabolical. I have no idea what the hell's going on down in that. It's like fucking, what is the Resident Evil corporation?
Oh, Umbrella Corp?
Umbrella Corp.
Yeah.
Nerve is the new Umbrella Corp.
Similar vibes.
Yeah.
Very similar vibes.
It's starting to be that way.
I also wanted to call note to the fact that during that scene where Misato and Kaji are out on the street talking and Misato's having that moment,
yeah, in
the background, the song Fly Me to the Moon is playing.
Which is your credit song.
Yeah, but it was like a arrangement done with no vocals and was just playing in the background of that scene, and I loved it. I made a note to make mention of it earlier, but I love when they do that.
They played so without the vocals. Is that the Netflix
version?
version?
They didn't play the one that plays the ending where it's like fly me to the moon. It was just like the more like orchestral backing of it. But it was very faint. It was just like backing music.
I'm curious because I noticed that as well, but I have no connection to the Fly Me to the Moon thing because the Netflix version plays a completely different end credits. But whatever it was, they played the end credits for the Netflix version underneath that scene.
Interesting. Speaking of end credits, we have some stuff to talk about episode 16's end credits. Did you?
Are we on 16 yet?
Well, no, I'm just saying that made me think about it. I made sure I took specific notes, and I'm curious if you caught any of what happened.
No, was there like a post-credit scene or something?
No, they go to Acapulco Bay with Frank Sinatra.
No, I was like, wow, subtle. The Netflix version didn't do anything, so.
But
I don't remember anything at the end of 16 that made me.
Oh, then we have lots to talk about. Oh, but fine. Before we do, quick,
let's do the whole episode.
Give me your rating of episode 15.
15. You know, it's fun because they basically they set up the story of 3 characters and what they're gonna do today.
They really kind of capitalize on what they did in those early episodes. Yeah. Where there's a lot of different stuff, and then they kind of converge.
Mesh it all together, and they give you a banging ending. I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10, and I would normally go lower. I would normally maybe go 7.5. But I think in thinking about it now, I think there's enough meat on the bone at the end of the episode to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I think having us do a double episode, having seen 16, I think that 15 really does a good job at setting up 16 and really meshing well. So I think on the surface, 15 is kind of a lot of random stuff, and then like all of a sudden an important thing.
Yeah.
But when you look at the, the story of the whole show and the tapestry that it's creating, this one makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Just a good episode.
I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Just because they make mention of Misato in a tight orange dress.
And that's enough for you.
And I'm kind of like, you know what?
It starts at an 8 once that happens.
Jokes aside, I do give it an 8.5 though, because I think that monologue is very great that happens between her and Kaji.
Yeah.
And I don't know if monologue is the right word, but it kind of is essentially her just spilling her guts.
She's opening up.
And doing so in a way that, like, hasn't been, one, just of character for her.
Yeah.
But also, two, just really solidifies, like, that shared ground she has with Shinji now.
Yeah.
Especially in terms of, like, relationships with your father.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly on that rating.
So, jumping into episode 16.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, they are in Masato's apartment. The gang's hanging out. Shinji's, wearing an apron and cooking while Misato throws a beer back.
This is like the third or fourth time that an episode has had like a scene near the beginning of just like a breakfast time, or like a lunchtime hangout with the crew on an off day kind of thing.
Totally.
And they have like the same music they always play.
Yep.
Pen always has a scene.
A little cameo.
This is like the, blood pressure goes down when you're watching it type of scene. And I really like all of these so far.
Yeah, so pretty much in this like breakfast time scene, Asuka like shrieks and she goes, it's too hot, and is complaining about the water.
Right.
And Shinji goes, sorry. And Asuka goes, why do you apologize for everything? It's not your fault the water's too hot. God, you do this all the time. You don't need to say sorry. And I really resonate with Shinji. I'm a habitual apologizer.
Yeah. And
even my girlfriend sometimes is like, you don't need to say sorry. It's not your fault. And I'm like, yeah, sorry. And then she'll just be like, stop. Don't do that.
Well, yeah, and then, Misato kind of classically sticks up for him, and then Asuka rips her for sticking up for him.
Yeah, she's like, you're too soft on him. You're supposed to be in charge, and just kind of rattles on and on and on.
Right. It's funny. So when Asuka and Shinji are kind of fighting, Misato kind of has this like look of just like existing while these two are fighting.
Here
and then
we go again.
Yes, exactly. And then when Asuka and Misato are kind of fighting, Shinji has the same exact facial expression, and it just gives you the idea that this is just what is common in this house constantly.
It's just Asuka picking fights with everybody.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be a traditional start to a morning scene, group hang kind of thing, if we didn't then immediately see a scene of them going under testing with Ritsuko.
I know.
This time, though, Shinji comes out on top because he has...
Let me ask you about that.
Yeah.
Does he actually...
Why don't you ask me about that?
Right off the rip here, Fernie, I want to ask you a question.
Go and ask me about that.
Does he actually test?
Absolutely.
First?
Yeah.
Or does she just tell him that?
No, Ritsuko is the one that calls it out because she goes, wow, Shinji is particularly like, he's at the, 100% threshold and he's been holding it for a while. And Misato goes, yeah, I should let him know about that. I think he'll really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So she does, and Shinji's like, oh, wow, like, yes, like, gets really psyched about it, which is more emotion than he's ever really shown in the past about things of that nature. And then Asuka flips out. She's like, oh, well, he's just the best, huh? And he gets 100%. And he's just so good. And then Misato's like, okay, that's enough, Asuka. Like, fucking pump the brakes, bitch.
Yeah.
But that continues then, because after they wrap up the testing, Ray and Asuka are getting changed in the locker room.
In the girls' locker room, yeah.
And Asuka, like, punches the locker and just goes, So stupid. If he's the best first child, then why doesn't he do all the fighting? Why doesn't he do everything? And then Rei goes, I'm going to leave now.
Yeah, Asuka's just been like pouring her heart out, bitching about Shinji, thinking that she might have like a common enemy with him behind her. Meanwhile, Rei just packs her shit up and is walking out and is at the door like, see ya.
I'm going now.
Yeah, in her see ya in her Rei language.
Goodbye.
She's like,
bitch, and then just like runs.
Yeah.
But pretty much immediately following that, you get a scene of Tokyo 3, and out from under this car is like a little shadow that moves. And next thing you know,
I wrote oil spill angel.
Turns out this I'll tell what I named this angel later, but pretty much it just takes the form of this giant ball and it just shows up. So all of NERV is like, how did we not see this coming? And they're like, I don't know, it's just here. Yeah. And so all the Evas get, sent out.
Yeah, they mentioned that it doesn't have an AT field.
Yes.
And so that's why it was tough for them. Like, that's why it didn't pick up on their sensors and...
Yeah, but once it manifested into the ball, it was like, oh, okay, there it is. Well, so then, Misato's like, get the Eva pilots out there, we gotta kill this thing. So, the three of them are out there, and Shinji is still really riding this high of, like, I was the best. I was at the top of my resonance. Like,
He just, I don't think has ever gotten... He had, like, one moment of validation like this when all the girls in the class first found out he was an Eva pilot.
Yeah.
And since then, he has gone through the absolute fucking ringer. His dad said good job to him once, and otherwise, this is like the third moment of bliss he's had since the show starts.
So they're in the Eva units, and Shinji's like, all right, what do we do? And then Asuka goes, well, shouldn't the number one guy do all the fighting and tell us what to do? And Ritsuko even makes a comment where she goes, okay, Misato's like, I'm gonna punish her later. That is, okay, guys, let's just kill the damn thing. So Shinji goes, okay, fine, I'll take point, and instructs Rei and Asuka to get in position. And he's like, are you guys in position yet? And Asuka's like, no. How fucking fast does he expect us to move in these things? Right. And sure enough, Shinji kind of like has this look where he's like, should I do it? I think I'm gonna do it. Yeah. And then he goes, fuck it, I'll do it. And then just just unloads, which does not go well.
It's funny, just before you get to kind of the meat of the angel fight. Yeah. If you imagine the scenario where Asuka takes the lead and Shinji and Rei took forever to get to her, the same thing would have happened. She would have been bitching up a storm of how long it took them to get to her, and that would be the reason why she got sunk into the shadow.
Yeah, well, and then leading up to that too, when she's talking shit to Shinji, like, shouldn't the number one guy do it? And he goes, yeah, maybe the number one should, idiot. Right. Right. He kind of snaps back at her, and I'm like, my man.
Misato sort of has to she's okay, guys, grow the fuck up.
Yeah, she's like, that's enough. Like, shut up.
You're embarrassing me now.
But so pretty much Shinji turns around the corner and is like, Gaeta needs his gat. And then the angel disappears, like the giant orb he was shooting at. And then he looks down and this shadow is now just like pulling him down. Yeah. And he has like a full breakdown. He's like, no, like help Misato, Asuka, Rei, like somebody help me. But it gets really exacerbated, like he is scared.
Yeah, we see Shinji a couple times in this episode. It's almost like, we've seen him scared to death before. Yeah. But he really didn't have much to live for. Yeah. Now he's sort of, like you mentioned in episode 4, whatever, he's kind of got this home. He's got, like, some good buddies. He's got these other pilots that, even if they argue, they are like his colleagues. He's got Misato, who he truly cares about. Yeah. And he's starting to patch things up with his dad in the last episode. So now, all of a sudden, we have a Shinji that has a lot to lose getting pulled seemingly to his death. Yeah. And so I think that you see some true fear.
Yeah, because prior to that, he was like, I don't care if I die.
I know. He kind of went through like a full depression here.
Yeah. Well, and so he gets sucked in, and Misato is like, someone like get in there and get him back, and Asuka tries to, but then the shadow gets under her, and she scales a building using her axe as like a foothold, and
right, dude,
she's
her
like,
axe is badass. Yeah. When I saw that she had that freaking battle axe, it's like hell
dope as hell. Well, and she just like slings it into the side of a building and like crawls up it, and then looks out, and this mass is just swallowing everything, and she goes, "Oh my god!" Like everything is sinking.
It's just I really liked that. I know that we're honing in on that axe for like a long time, but it's so in character for her to be able to mentally think in a moment like that. Okay, if I slam my axe in the building, I can use that as a foothold and use that to get, like her brain. She's so well trained with the Eva. Clearly from the beginning she was more well trained than like a Rei or a Shinji.
Yeah.
Like she's more in sync with her unit. She was able to just quickly, from her training, think, okay, this is what I got to do. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Like, it's all in character.
Yeah.
And I like that, in these battle situations, it's not just basic action. It's actually, like, legitimate character-driven action.
Yeah. Like, there's a smarts to it. And, like, Rei running support, I mean, she fires a sniper bullet, but she's like, in position.
When I saw that big-ass sniper, I'm like, dude... This show is badass.
It's so dope.
When it wants to be, this show is fire.
Yeah. Wait.
Hold on. I mean,
run that one by me again, buddy?
I mean, on like a visual, an exclusively aesthetic action level.
Yeah.
Because this show is fire from an emotional level as well.
Yes.
But I feel like it's so easy to get lost in the character moments in the show.
Yeah.
Hear me out.
Yeah, no,
It's easy to get lost in the lore of Nerve and Japan and the characters.
You kind of forget it's a mech show.
You forget there's these badass mech sequences.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really telling of how well the show characterizes its like cast, but also focuses on the non-mech stuff.
Yeah.
But then when the mech stuff happens, like you say, it's just like, yo, this is dope as hell.
Like
I love it.
The guys at Bungie watched this and they were like, okay, Chief's main weapons, he's gonna have sniper rifle, magnum, and grav hammer,
and knife,
and hot knife.
But yeah, it's a very cool scene, and it also is cool too because Asuka, who was shit talking Shinji, wants to save him.
Oh yeah, well, because she wants credit.
But
she wants to save the.
But I do think
second children.
But beneath that layer, though, he saved her.
Yeah.
Like, so I do think there's a part of that. And Rei too, when she drops that shot at the angel, is like, also I think frantically just trying to help.
Hey, Asuka and Shinji shared a kiss, Fernie.
Yeah.
There could be something deeper there.
There's a romantic involvement.
There is.
But Shinji wants his mommy.
Yeah, well, his mommy's with him, but he just doesn't know it.
Oh, shit. Well, so pretty much after that, it cuts back to, like, Nerve headquarters. Ritsuko is like, yeah, I'm going to be completely straight with you here. We do not know how to kill this thing. And Misato goes, well, we've got to get Shinji back. Like, we can get him back, right? And Ritsuko goes, I don't know. Like, we do not know what to do. And then Asuka goes, well, just send us in there. Like, we'll kill it. And Rei, with the 1,000-yard stare, drops this line. She goes, I wonder, do you pilot an Eva for the praise of others? And then just turns and walks away, and Asuka's like, well... And, like, starts to get heated up, and Misato goes, that's enough.
Yeah, she, like, confronts Asuka for the first time, because she's been, like, sitting by while Asuka talks mad shit about Rei.
Mm-hmm.
She confronted the bitch, owned her.
Yeah, because, frankly, Rei could easily go, Shinji pilots his Eva to protect us and others and everyone. Why do you do it? And then, I mean, Asuka could go, well, then why do you? And Rei goes, it's my duty to Gendo. I am the mountains and the blue mist of a Baja Blast out of the dispenser.
Yes.
But, yeah, it was really great seeing Rei just go, I wonder.
It was refreshing, wasn't it?
It was really good.
Just like a Baja Blast.
Yeah, well, so then, so episode 16 is one of my favorites, and I think it pretty much is purely because this next stretch of, like, episode is very distressing to watch. At least for me. The first time I watched it, I was kind of like, whatever. But it was on, like, my additional watches that I was just kind of like, this is a little difficult to watch. And it's when Shinji is essentially having just, like, a pure distress moment. He is, like, frantically trying to figure out, like, how to get out. Like, what do I do? I need help. Is anyone going to save me? And he starts, like, calling out to everyone. But this is after essentially... So it cuts to Shinji. He's in this pod. Or he's in the plug, I should say. And he's like, well, it's been 12 hours since I've been here. The life support system will probably go out in about 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah, there's something about how it won't let him eject.
Yeah, well,
they can't eject him, and either can he.
But then he like smells the LCL, and he goes, it smells like blood. And then he kind of goes into a frenzy where he starts frantically trying to open the eject pod, and he starts like punching it, and that's just really tough to watch because, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I hate that feeling of like being in an inescapable...
The claustrophobia.
Yeah, but then having that exacerbated by just like, you're in an angel. You don't even know what you're in. You just know you can't get out.
I know. And this is probably the last thing you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I named this angel, I think its real name is like Leliel.
Dude, the Clips episode started giving me names of angels, and I was like,
what?
I'm sorry, what? You mean it's not rhombus on an axis?
You mean it's not the twins? But this one I just call math equation because that's essentially what it is. Because Ritsuko has this whiteboard, and she's like, yeah, so it's basically on another plane of existence, and the ball isn't the angel, it's the shadow.
Right.
The shadow is the angel. So to kill it, we are going to drop every AT mine that we have.
It's such a dumb plan, honestly.
It's a Misato level-esque plan, but it sounds so stupid coming from Ritsuko because frankly she should be the one that is able to figure out something not that.
No, Ritsuko's a dumb shit.
Yeah.
Masato's plan would have been better. Masato's plan would have been like, okay, it's a shadow. Okay, we're gonna build the world's biggest magnifying glass, and we're gonna take the sun. We're gonna move the sun. We're
going to turn the sun into a laser.
Exactly. We're gonna make the earth so bright in that spot that there is no more shadow. And Shinji will be right there.
Well, so I realize I jumped ahead, but Shinji's distress comes after basically Ritsuko explains what this thing is. Like the angel and how it manifests. Mm-hmm. After Shinji has that moment, Ritsuko then tells Misato one-on-one, like, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to drop all these mines in. Yeah. Because, frankly, our number one priority is getting that Eva out. No matter what. Like, pilot dead or alive. And Misato goes, what about Shinji? Right. And she goes, we cannot guarantee that he's even going to be alive by then. And this back and forth continues, and then Misato just slaps her and goes like, this isn't like you.
Right. Since when does human life matter less than...
Yeah. Like what is so special about the Eva?
And also just like, what is Nerve doing if not to protect humanity?
Yeah. It's
almost like that was a shifting moment for her where now she realized that
she's like...
Kaji was sort of right.
Well, not sorta. I think Misato kind of pushes Ritsuko to that point to kind of confirm for herself.
To see. Yeah.
Hey, is this person who I view as like my really close confidant and friend someone who, is actually like doing this shady stuff?
Yeah.
Sure enough. Yeah. Well, and so then it moves into my favorite part of the episode, and I call it the Shades of Shinji.
God damn it. I love that.
And basically, the way it breaks down is, Shinji is just kind of there, and he's having this, like, mental, like, psychological breakdown. And then another voice comes, and it's like a pitched down version of Shinji's voice.
It's like a totally calm talk version of Shinji.
And he's like,
they
hello.
started playing the same music that they played during Ray's like poem kind of breakdown, and I was just sitting in bed watching this like, oh, come the fuck on, are we really going there with this?
Yeah.
And we were.
Yeah, well, and so then basically it breaks down into, I'm you, Shinji. I'm another version of you.
Yeah.
I'm the version of you that Gendo sees. I'm the version of you that Misato sees, that Asuka sees, that Rei sees. Goes through all of these people, and basically in this dialogue, Shinji is kind of like, well, I just want to be, like, I don't want to be hated by everyone. I wrote it down. Basically, Shinji goes, I'm afraid of being hated, and then the other calm Shinji goes, you're afraid of being hurt. Mm-hmm. And so that's why Shinji, there's so many versions of Shinji that are different from who he truly is, because he's trying to fit the mold of what everyone else, or what he thinks everyone else wants him to be. Yeah. And I'm not going to say I resonate with that, because I too try to match others, but I think, speaking on it for a more broad approach, I think everyone, like, there's that joke, like, okay, I'm different around this group of friends than I am around this group, and if they ever met, they'd probably see a different person. Sure. But I think it's really impactful, just this idea that throughout the show, Shinji has really grown accustomed and kind of sought out, approval from his dad. He wants to protect Rei, Asuka, and Misato. He wants to save the world. He wants to be all of these things for other people, but this calm voice of Shinji is like, you should be you.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the voice is saying, hey, you are really beating yourself up over trying to be everything that you're not for other people. What if you just tried being yourself?
Yeah. Well, and the conversation goes on, and then Shinji goes, I can't. And then the calm voice goes, you're running away again.
Yeah, so there's kind of this motif at the beginning where Asuka mentions that
you always apologize. Like, why do you do that? Like, you have nothing, you don't need to be sorry.
Exactly.
Because the water's too hot.
Right. But that Shinji always runs away from what's difficult and just says, "Sorry, I'll work on it."
No, that's okay. I won't voice my opinion. Right. Like, I'll be what you need me to be. Then as this like series progresses, Shinji is then, it cuts to him sitting in a train car, and he's looking at like a younger version of himself. Yeah. And this is kind of where the psychological breakdown happens, because he's pretty much having a moment where he is like having to confront this idea that he has somewhat stunted himself mentally, like in terms of growth, due to, losing his mom and, being detached from his dad. Yeah. And as a result, he's kind of developed these habits that are not favorable, but he doesn't really know what else to do. So he clings to whatever, gives him that sense of belonging.
Well, he clearly didn't really allow himself to heal properly from any of that. And because he's kept that in for so long, now it's like he himself, his internal self, is bringing all that negativity up to the surface and saying, let's deal with this now. Yeah. And Shinji is like, dude, the last thing I want to deal with right now is this. Yeah. I just want to like live. Yeah. And it's like,
or if anything, I'd rather just die and never have to worry. Yeah. And never have to worry about it. And that's why like you're running away again.
Right. But that's not going to happen.
No. Well, and so pretty much that conversation continues, and Shinji kind of just starts getting more and more like frustrated just about this constant like, assault on him from himself, basically saying like, hey man, you're holding on to a lot of stuff, and you should maybe just try and let go. Yeah. And right as Shinji is just kind of about to like give up, he feels the embrace of like a hand on him, and it's his, I mean, for me, I I would say it's the embrace of his mom.
It's 100% his mom.
Yeah.
I think they might even.
It's
pretty obvious.
They don't confirm it there, but yeah. I mean it's his mom, and his mom is essentially the one that saves him. And in this moment of just like sweet embrace, like I just it really sticks out to me, like kind of the surprise on Shinji's face when he's like, "Wait, what?" But it's very like brief, and kind of short-lived a little bit, but he then starts to like have a brief break in the moment that he's repressed all these thoughts and feelings about his mom or whatever, and then he sees this like flashback of him as a kid, and his mom's face is all like scratched out and blurry, and like
I can't remember if it's this episode or the last episode where they hint at the fact that Gendo was a suspect for his mom being killed.
Yeah.
Was that in this scene or was that in the
I think it was in one of the like past. It might have been in the graveyard. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't mean to derail us on this, but
no, you're good.
That's an interesting footnote, right?
Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing too. Like, Shinji doesn't have many memories of his mom. Like, there's no photos,
no physical evidence of his mom.
Gendo makes like a comment of like, yeah, she's right here in my heart, and that was the other thing too. He was like, we don't even have like a real grave to mourn her at. Right. Like we didn't find the body.
And the craziest thing is that the only person that reminds Shinji of his mom, Gendo has in a test tube in the last episode. So just once again, I mean...
Really, for all my theory...
Really fucking crazy, but...
All my theory thinkers out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just... That whole breakdown is very, like... Very much Hideki Anno, or Hideaki Anno. I don't want to mispronounce, but... I mean, like... I know I mentioned in like episode 1, this show is a lot of things, and on the one hand, Anno wanted to make a show that would like kind of revitalize otakus and like make people excited about anime, but he was also really depressed, and so through this creative medium, I think a lot of the themes and ideas he himself was navigating very much rear their head, but because it's so real, I guess, like coming from him, it's also really relatable. I mean, I don't think you could find a single person out there that's like, yeah, I'm a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And when I'm around those people, I myself am different.
Sure.
But questioning the idea of like, it's okay to be a different person. You're not going to be the same person to everyone, but is who you are pretending to be or wanting to be to fit the mold of others good for yourself, like your own sense of self.
Yeah.
And I love it. I think it's really powerful and just great.
So let's talk about what happens next, because I have questions relating to that sequence after we talk about what happens next.
Yeah, so pretty much Shinji gets embraced by his mom. He has that flashback where her face is all like blurred out, like kind of... It looks like someone took chalk and kind of just went over her face a little bit in her body.
Yeah.
But pretty much Asuka and Rei and all of NERV are in position to drop all of these NT or AT mines. Is it NT mines?
NT.
Yeah, NT mines on the Angel. But then all of a sudden from the shadow you see this rippling of red, and it's like the ground is being broken, but the ground isn't. It's this being or the shadow that was like absorbing Shinji, and out from the middle comes Eva 1 just in full berserk mode, in the same way we saw it happen in episode 2, where Shinji is obviously asleep at the wheel, so whatever this Eva is very much like in full control.
This was savage.
This was visually amazing. I love the contrast of the black and red. Yeah. And just like the shots where it's like breaking out of the shadow.
Yeah, it shrouded it in mystery just enough, because until the end of the episode, I really didn't fully put together that this was Eva 1.
Yeah.
Because it could,
it could have been anything.
It looks like the emergence of like the true enemy here.
Yeah.
Or like a new angel.
Well, and it's cool too because it cuts to the nerve center and Misato goes, what's happening? Right. And all of the crew are like, we have never seen this before. We don't know what's going on. And Misato looks at Ritsuko and goes, what is an Eva?
Right.
What is that?
crazy that they would have never had that conversation.
Yeah,
until now,
and
but...
Ritsuko goes, I don't know. I've never seen this. And then, like, as she sees Ava 1 just burst out of the angel and yell, like this violent, guttural yell, like, kind of cheering defeat, or, cheering because it just obliterated this angel.
Because it survived.
Yeah, Ritsuko goes, what have we made? Like, what have this... Oh, God, that scene after Ava 1 bursts out of the bubble, drops to the ground, and the ground rises up around it, and it's just the black and red. Ooh, that is dope as hell.
It's fire. I love that they're all just like, dude, Shinji's cockiness got him fucked up on this one, and then here Ava Unit 1 comes busted out of them.
Not just like out of the ground, but through the fucking, like, because what I think happened was it started breaking out of the shadow, so the shadow moved to surround the ball to like contain it.
Yes.
And then Ava 1 was like, bitch, you thought.
Very good.
That was a recreation, I think 1-to-1.
I called this angel after the oil spill angel.
Oh,
I called it the vertigo sphere.
I'm just gonna call it quick muffs.
Quick muffs. Wait, what did you actually?
Math equation.
Math equation angel.
Yeah. But just a amazing scene, because you watch Ritsuko essentially kind of like freak out a little bit, because even she, someone who is now confirmed to have a lot more of an operating understanding of what Nerve is really doing, is like, oh my god, what have we made? Like, what is this? And then Misato is just like, you dumb bitch. Like, what have you done? You know, you guys have dabbled in some weird shit. And it's just... And then it ends.
Oh, also, Gendo was gone.
Gendo was gone.
Again.
Makes you think.
That's like 3/4 of them he's not there.
That's like 75 cents.
Yeah. Although when he has been there, he pretty much saved the day. Well, he actually performed work in one of them.
Yes.
We'll say that.
Yeah, there it is. But yeah, just kind of a bombastic end to a very detailed and like kind of a psychological mindfuck of an episode.
I gotta admit, it was cathartic to have Shinji get some like mental healing.
Yeah. And
to have the Ava unit break out. It was kind of like a lot of pressure was released there.
How do you feel about the theory that Ava 1 is his mom?
I've never heard that theory. But is that a true theory that some people have?
That's my working theory, is that Ava 1 is Shinji's mom.
Having seen the show's finale, my new theory is...
No. This is a theory I've always had, and I'm putting the theory out there.
Just because of the... Well, let's talk about that. I mean... Shinji's mom
twice now
basically
in this one his mom rescues him.
Do you think that mentally Shinji in the unit, that baggage being lifted from him mentally provided some sort of insane sync rate that allowed the Ava to break free, or do you think that it's purely the
potentially Ava? I mean it,
because I'm with you. I don't think that Shinji is conscious at all during that.
No. Well, and so I think of like Mama Bear, like the maternal instincts to protect the children or whatever.
Yeah. Or even like the Magi.
Yeah. In the two instances we've seen the Ava kind of go fucking berserk. Each time, I mean, it's not a coincidence that it's happened with, Shinji being the pilot. Like, because he's the only one that can really pilot Ava 1. But, I don't know. This instance is obviously a little bit more like his mom fucking swooped up and saved him, and then the Ava just somehow berserked out of a fucking LCL other realm chamber.
That's not a bad theory, because, I mean, the Ava does save him, like, right in the first episode.
Yeah.
That, like... Maybe maternal instinct.
Yeah.
It's not a bad theory, I'll give you that.
Yeah, I will say, though, seeing... Once, like, that fight ends, it then cuts to Shinji, like, coming back to the surface. in that same hospital room.
Yeah.
From episode...
The new ceiling.
Episode, like, 12?
Oh, no, not... Is it the same room?
Yeah,
as the
same
new
room.
Okay.
Episode 2, 12, and... I don't know. I can't remember.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
But
yeah,
it's the one where he says, "God, I really hate this ceiling," or something like that. But Misato's like crying and like holding him, and I think it's just really sweet because she's now, I think, foregone the "I'm tough."
Yeah.
And Asuka goes, "Thought you were gonna punish him when he got back."
Yeah. She says scold in the Netflix.
Oh yeah.
I thought you were gonna scold him.
And meanwhile, Asuka's like. You can tell there's a little bit of her that's like kind of glad Shinji's alive.
Well, yeah.
But she's like,
who is she gonna make fun of?
I thought he was gonna get in trouble.
I mean, without Shinji, Asuka has no one to make fun of because Rei essentially just intimidated the fuck out of Asuka. So
yeah, that is true. Rei's like,
that's not happening again.
Rei's like, hey, bitch, I ain't gonna put up with no shit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's over for Asuka as far as intimidation goes with Rei.
Oh, yeah. Well, so then, okay, so pretty much the final line said is from Shinji. He sits up in the hospital bed. He, like, kind of chuckles after seeing Misato almost run into someone outside of the door. And then it stops, and he kind of goes, like, cold-faced, and he goes, it still smells like blood.
Yeah, he smells... I forget. Yeah, he smells himself. In the Netflix version, he smells himself, and he says, "Can't get the smell of blood off" or something. And then like goes back to sleep.
For mine, he goes, "It still smells like blood."
Yeah,
and then falls asleep. But so the different ending I was talking about in my version, the ending doesn't play right away. Usually, the screen will flash and it'll be like, "Fly me to the moon."
Unbelievable.
Let me play it, like, and it'll just start. However, in this instance, it was all the Japanese voice actors for Rei, Misato, and Asuka, and they were all talking, saying different things, and then it stops and fades out, and then the song kicks in, but at like the point where it would be if it started normally, because those three voice actors are saying their stuff in character, and then it goes, in other words, take my hand, or some...
Dude, I can verify that did not happen in mine.
So, here's the lines that are said. Do you love me? Hey, you want a kiss? Why don't you become one with me? Who are you? If you become one in mind and body, it's a very, very comforting feeling. Pleasure, sky of reality, cruel strangers. Do you want me? Do you love me? And I tried to find who says what. So if anyone out there is hearing this and I'm wrong, correct me. But do you love me is said by Misato. Hey, you want a kiss is said by Asuka.
Yeah.
Why don't you become one with me is said by Rei. Who are you is said by Misato. Rei says if you become one in mind and body, it's a very, very comforting feeling. Yeah, Rei says... Pleasure, sky of reality, cruel strangers. Misato goes, do you want me? Or sorry, Asuka goes, do you want me? Misato goes, do you love me? So Misato's trying to get a little bit of Shinji Punani.
No.
Misato is going to hook up with a kid. Plot twist!
Man.
Episode 16's a fucking trip, though. Yeah. I love this episode so much.
Yeah, what a good episode, right?
Yeah. If it's so good, what would you rate it?
I'd give it an 8.5.
Damn, I'm giving it a 10.
Good for you.
I'm giving it a 10 because when I think of Neon Genesis a lot, obviously the whole idea of like Hideaki Anno and like navigating depression came after I watched it the first time, read up on it, watched it again with that framing. You know, it could be argued, well, if you didn't know that, would you have rated it that?
Well, yeah.
Maybe not, but I think even then, the more I watch it, this is like my third or fourth time seeing this episode, I still just get this like pit in my stomach when Shinji is freaking out in the pod and he's like...
That was hard to watch.
Yeah, it's tough to watch. In the same way, it's tough to watch him get pulled in, and then you see Asuka's face and she's kind of panicked. Rei... You know, it doesn't show her, but Misato is, like, obviously very distressed. This episode has moments where it really makes you, the viewer, feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
But there's so much calm that happens when Shinji's having that conversation with himself about sense of self. And then he gets comforted by his mom, and then you just see this fucking dope-ass moment where the Eva 1 pops the balloon that is the angel. And I love it.
I think that episodes 15 and 16 are a couple of those episodes that on first watch are solid episodes.
Yeah.
But once all the pieces have been put in place by the end of the show, these will be kind of the beginning of the like ultimate plots wrapping up. And I think that my rating for this will inevitably be higher on future watch-throughs.
Well, but see, that's the thing though too, and I want to reiterate this for those at home that are wondering about like the difference in ratings. I mean, we could go back to episode 4, and I think that just by and large, one reason I viewed it as a 10 and Spencer viewed it, what was it, like a 4? Is that what you gave it?
No, I think it was
5?
better than that. Maybe like a 5 or a 6, yeah.
But
at
I thought you gave it a 3.
Well, I used to grade a lot higher.
Yeah.
And I think that at the time that was significantly lower than...
But I think, and Spencer, I think even mentioned it, that episode, I view these episodes with knowledge of having seen them before. So obviously I can look at a moment like Shinji talking to his self, you know, or like his calm self, and breaking down what it means to exist in other people's minds and, you know, whatnot. And operate with that knowing what happens later. Not to say that it's like some huge callback moment, but... Obviously, if you know how things play out, certain moments rewatching them have a lot more of weight in your viewing. But like me giving it a 10 and Spencer giving it an 8 isn't saying, yeah, Spencer just did not like it, but it's his first time viewing it.
Well, I mean, the ratings don't really matter.
They don't. But I know for some people, a number attached to a thing is like you just either killed my dog or you bought me a new puppy.
Well,
so,
we've pretty much universally generally liked every episode. The Clips episode got fairly poor ratings.
We both panned that
but
one.
Generally, this show's been really consistent and solid. I think that if I
more so just wanted to illustrate that there is a disparity just in the sense that you're watching it for the first time and I've seen it before. That's all.
Well, yeah, 4 is the perfect example of that because I would give 4 a good rating now because that episode really has big payoff later.
Yeah.
At the time, I'm just like, God, what a waste.
Yeah.
And for something that doesn't even really make much sense. But character-wise now, that episode is strong.
Absolutely.
So yeah, don't read too much into the ratings.
But, you know, I mean, we're still curious to hear what you would give it, new or old viewer alike. I guess, you know.
Yeah, throw that in the comments.
Yeah, like, I'm more so just also saying, too, don't feel like you have to write a novella about defending an episode or justifying a standpoint because you maybe thought the number we gave it wasn't what you would give it. If anything, write that about why you would give it the score that you either disagree with what we gave or what you would give it yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, once again, you guys reach out to us on all kinds of platforms. I mean, Apple Podcast, 5-star reviews, we'll read those on the show. YouTube, any comments on any of the videos, we're happy to respond to you guys.
Yeah, shouts out Daniel again.
Yes, we're happy to interact with you guys on that. And then same thing, you know, Facebook, you know, anything that's on our link tree that you can comment on. We are thrilled to interact with you guys.
We love any kind of interaction you guys give, so we're all for it. But thanks again for the understanding of our bye week. You know, we're out of rotation until NFC Championship starts. So.
Well, it worked out for you guys because, you know, you would have had 3 episodes in 3 weeks, and instead you get 4 in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And we skipped a week.
The math checks out.
The math checks out,
in
guys.
The same way that Math Angel, you know, Math Equation Angel, you know, worked out in terms of getting its balls busted. That would be like a funny alternate title. Angel gets balls busted by Ava Unit 1. Live. Bloody.
That could be the Facebook share.
Gone sexual.
Gone sexual, yeah.
But, yeah, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Michael.
And I'm Spencer.
And we'll catch you on the next episode of HiroBabble. That was all improv. Peace.